Welcome to the Encephalitis Podcast, and in this edition to mark Encephalitis Information Week, we're going to be talking about clinical or medical negligence and why clinical negligence cases are not just important for providing understanding and financial security to the person that's been involved, but they're also crucial when it comes to changing policy and practice among healthcare organisations to make sure that mistakes or errors in their systems or their ways of working don't occur again. To be fair, this can be a controversial area, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about it. And to help me with this subject is someone that I've known for a very long time, encephalitis survivor and all-round top bloke, James Pratt. James is a long-time member of the Encephalitis Society and one of our most devoted and award-winning fundraisers, raising nearly £40,000 for us over the years, doing a whole host of different things, such as walking from Land's End to John O'Groats, skydives, the Three Peaks Challenge, and much, much more. But he also has personal experience of pursuing and winning a clinical negligence case following his case of encephalitis a few years ago. So welcome, James, and thank you for joining us.
Welcome, Ava. It's a real pleasure to be talking about this subject today. Thanks for inviting me.
It's great to see you. It feels like it's been a long time. I mean, I think the pandemic has made things feel like everything is a long time, but it feels like an awful long time since I last saw you.
Yeah, we had some things planned for some more fundraising, but obviously that's put a stop to that. And, people are taking a lot longer to get back into the swing of things. And, everything that you want to try and do it takes a lot longer to organise now, unfortunately, but we're getting there.
Yeah, absolutely. We are getting there. Look, as always, let's start at the beginning. Can you tell us about your illness? What happened?
So, was feeling obviously a young lad at the time, was working hard, and also I'd say probably playing hard at the time, but fit as a fiddle, played a lot of sports, and generally became unwell, which was very unusual, was very, never really suffered from any major health problems, just dizzy spells, lethargic, and quite aware that something wasn't quite right in my head more than anything and in my body. This went on for some weeks. We had some tests done and nothing, the typical thing of it could be a virus. My mum was obviously a fully qualified nurse. She wasn't sure about it, and it went on, and we had a second opinion from a doctor who fortunately had trained someone who had had encephalitis, so got us the right treatment that we needed in the end, but it took some time to get to that position.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think those early days were like for you and the family? It must have been very frustrating being bumped around and not getting a diagnosis.
Well, it's quite scary, to be honest. So I was having what would have been mini seizures at the time because it was interfering, my brain was swelling, it was interfering with various different things, at work. I was having funny episodes, auras, and, twitching and almost sort of fainting. So there was definitely something going on. And, it's a typical thing, your own body, and I knew something wasn't quite right. So completely paranoid about what was going on around me, but just very lucky that I had people that were quite clued up around me, and then ultimately, reaching out to you guys, and you could point me in the right direction, really.
Yeah. Have you? Would you say that you've got any after effects now of the encephalitis?
Oh, I mean, got the time we looked this morning. Rushed around. Obviously do get lethargic, try not to overdo it too much and keep life very simple so my brain doesn't go into an overload because my memory is pretty poor. Obviously suffered, as you know, Ava, suffered with quite a lot of depression, especially in the early days, trying to get back on track, because I wasn't, mentally, the brain takes some time to repair, and I'm a different person now, but 5, 6, 7 years, I think I was still all over the shop, and really it was a case of being around the right people, listening to your body, looking and generally just looking after yourself.
Yeah, that wise words. What was it that made you seek legal advice in those early days then?
So the main thing to really remember is that I actually was really struggling at the time and to even cope with life. So it was only my mum and dad that really were, you're so conscious that something wasn't right and something needs to be looked into. And of course, at the time I was working for a big company and did do for about 20 years. And they also recognised that I wasn't myself. I couldn't do the things I used to. I'd worked my way up from an early age into a very good position. And generally, I couldn't cope with the workload. My brain didn't remember the things it should have done. They were getting frustrated. It was just a difficult situation. And I actually was due to go for a promotion. Couldn't even barely do the job I was doing previously. It was really frustrating, and it was only my mum and dad that really said, we need to dig into this a bit deeper and find out, why you're in this mess, really.
So what happened at that point then? Did you reach out to a solicitor or a law firm?
No,
what happened?
no, we came to you. We came to Encephalitis Society. My mum, obviously, fortunately, we had an excellent doctor who would. My mum ran nursing homes. She took a second opinion. She said, "This is encephalitis." She was insistent. She said, "This should have been picked up. You need to do X, Y, and Z." And then my mum, being the wonderful mother that she is, and my dad, they looked into it, and they looked into Encephalitis Society, and really it was down to you, Ava, that you actually put me in the right direction with Tim Spring, had a clinical negligence at Moor Blatch, and they looked after it and helped me all the way, really, and made us realise that there was a real error there and it needs to be looked into.
Sometimes for people who are thinking about pursuing clinical negligence, sometimes they're worried about cost, whether it's going to cost them money in those early days. Was that a worry for you?
Oh, yeah, definitely, because I actually obviously demote myself from a job. I was struggling, everyone around me that was in the shoes at the time were, they were just, their careers were flourishing, and obviously that's where I should have been. So basically I was going backwards. I was struggling to keep, I was still living at home. So yeah, it was a real, when you start thinking and understanding with the financial costs, you realise, and I didn't want my mum and dad to be burdened with this. And, fortunately we were helped. We were helped in that respect because it was such a strong case.
Some of the people that I speak to that have gone through a clinical negligence case, they can be quite surprised at how long it can take before there is an outcome. How long did it take for your case to finish, and was that wait difficult?
Oh, it was several years, and because my depression was really bad in those early years, I wanted to throw the towel in quite often, and it was only through Tim being brilliant and helping us the way that he did, and yourself and my mum and dad, you four really, that really probably gave me the strength to carry on and just not give up, and see it through. And you never know what the outcome's going to be. You've just got to keep your head down and carry on, basically.
Yeah. Your claim, obviously, the reason we're talking, your claim was successful. Can you remember that moment when you found out that the case had been agreed and what it was like?
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, we thought it was going to be, we had so much confidence in Tim and the barrister Nigel that, we did think. Tim had said, such a strong case, we know the outcome. I was severely damaged. The people I work with now have gone on and they're working at a high level in one of the most successful companies, private companies in the country. I just couldn't do the job. I used to do it without even thinking about it. So I was, obviously as elated. And to be honest, when it was just a weight off my shoulders more than anything. It meant I could move on with my life, and not have this thing hanging over me and concentrate on getting back on track, really.
Yeah. Obviously, financial gain is one outcome from a clinical negligence case, but do you think there were any other outcomes from your case that were positive?
I think it's closure, really, and knowing that there was obviously errors made, and unfortunately with the brain, it's difficult. So obviously some parts of the body they don't repair well either, but once your brain's damaged, it's irreparable, really, and you're left with lasting effects, and I still have those today, and there's still things that I know that I'm not right. I have a lot of anxiety, but I've come a long way, and I feel a damn sight better than I used to, but I will still always have the effects of the encephalitis, and maybe that could have been prevented if they'd have acted earlier.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the hope is as well, I guess, tell me if you agree, but is that it will prevent what happened to you happening to other people. This is about preventing system errors and changing policy and practice, and not about being punitive to a doctor that might have made a mistake, for example. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the main reason I raised the money was because, fortunately for me, I've got a strong mind. I've overcome a lot of, I've come through a lot of dark places, which I know a lot of other people wouldn't have been able to come through. And also, I've got a really good support bubble around me. I've got excellent friends and family, and professionals like you guys around me. But not everyone's in that position. And I've been contacted by people that have been local people that have lost babies through this, that have said, really well done, James. We've seen that you're raising this money just to let you know that we lost our daughter from this. So that's the reason that I raise the money that I do, because I'm the lucky one that managed to get through the illness with the support of you guys, and awareness needs to be raised. And I've seen the aftermath of people who haven't come through it quite as well as what I have, and their lives are even worse affected, and they can't get back on track, they can't get back into work, and ultimately some people have died because the illness hasn't been picked up when really it should have been.
Yeah, so I guess what you're saying is that one of the important outcomes is that there can be changes in healthcare that can prevent this happening to other people. Is that right?
Oh, without a shadow. I mean, the signs were there, really, and people that knew me knew I wasn't right, knew I wasn't well, and a bit more investigative work could have been done to establish exactly what was going on. And again, training maybe. I bump into so many people now that do know of encephalitis. That's probably to do with what you guys do. But even at the time, I was aware of people that were aware, and in those early years, so people were aware of this illness, but maybe not people so much in the hospitals and the signs and the symptoms, really.
Yeah, well, I think we've all done a lot of work in that area in the last few years, haven't we? But if there was someone listening who's considering asking for legal help, what would your advice be to them? What can they expect?
I mean, first of all, you guys, you'll be able to point them in the right direction. There's some excellent solicitors out there, and obviously Tim was absolutely amazing, and they've got a lot of support and a lot of information around them. You really need to pursue it, take some good advice, and dig deep and find out what's happening and what's going on, and really should you be pursuing it.
Yeah. I mean, we have a small group of law firms that have expertise in this, and we try and steer people towards those law firms, because I think it's really important, isn't it, to get a lawyer, and in your case, a barrister who knows the condition and who knows what they're doing. Definitely,
yeah. It's the same with any legal case, really. You've got to pick someone that knows what they're talking about, and there isn't anyone better placed than Tim, really. We learned a lot from him, and if it hadn't been for him, we wouldn't have been where we are today, really.
Yeah. What was your relationship like with your solicitor?
Oh, amazing. You could always pick the phone up. Still to today, we keep in contact. And, really understanding of where I was. And like I say, it was a dark place, and I needed my hand holding at times, because of the pressures of life, a young man trying to, get somewhere in life, I really couldn't cope and didn't want to carry on with the mental stress of not only trying to get myself back on track, but also get my life back on track. And then quite a difficult court case, pulling information together, mum and dad getting, the money to start it in the early days. It was a real struggle. But Tim was really understanding and absolutely incredible person.
Have you got any top tips that could help people work well with their solicitor? What sort of things do you think they need to think about?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Because some solicitors are absolutely amazing. Some aren't. I work in the estate agency business, and that's full of solicitors that are good and bad. But it's obviously a different part of conveyancing and legal work. Tim was very compassionate. They're obviously dealing with people's lives to a really high degree. So pick the phone up, look at what sort of cases they've worked on, and get a feel for the individual, and be guided by yourself, really, especially in if it's encephalitis or something like that. But unfortunately, these events are too common, and there's a lot of cases out there, and a lot of solicitors that actually represent people that have gone through these awful situations. So you just have to do the research, really.
Yeah, that's good. Was there anything unexpected that you got out of the case, do you think?
God. I don't know, really. It's it was more about the closure for me. It takes over your life. There's no two ways about it, and it did do. It's like almost like a black cloud hanging over, and all you want to do is put it to bed, and hopefully you can put it to bed in the right way. But you also know in the back of your mind that sometimes you can't, and quite a lot of the time these cases don't. So yeah, I think really with a court case, it made me learn that I was quite lucky, and people coming out of Shall and saying, look, we've lost people, and well done for what you're doing, and also raising the awareness, even more, pushed me on, and that really I was grateful to be here, although I had lasting effects. Grateful to be here and able to raise awareness and raise more money and meet lots of people that have been through the same situation, really.
Yeah. Well, look, as we're coming to the close of this podcast, is there anything else that you want to say, or anything that you wish that I'd asked you before we finish up?
I think we've covered everything, but ultimately, we didn't really want to pursue a court case at the start. It wasn't something that we really wanted to do. But there was negligence there, and if someone's at fault and someone's dropped the ball, it needs to be looked into, because unfortunately with illness, it's people's lives, and I've heard of some scary stories since, and you've got to fight for what you believe in, and get to the bottom of actually what's happened. And we could have quite easily thrown the towel in, and I might being honest, there were times where I didn't think I'd be here today to be in this situation. So, you've really got to, ask advice, especially from you guys with the encephalitis. If it's encephalitis or any illness, encephalitis, seek the advice from you guys, and you can put people in the right situation, and give them the right advice. And if they need, some negligence claim, then Tim's a man for the job.
Along with our other legal partners, it must be said as well. We've got, I think back in the day, I think you're quite right, there was very few firms that had the expertise necessary. But now we have a small group of legal practitioners who are all expert in this field. But look, we're really pleased that you are still here, James. We've covered an awful lot, and we're deeply grateful to you for taking the time to chat with us today. The Encephalitis Society services remain at everybody's service. So if anybody listening to this or watching this needs any information, our teams are there for you. Go to encephalitis.info for contact details or to chat online. And as always, if you can support our work, we would be extremely grateful, now probably more than ever, post-pandemic, where funds are very, very low. So please visit encephalitis.info/donate if you can. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, James.
Thanks, Ava.